Hey everybody, good morning. Good morning. It's day 9 of spiritual healthcare. Welcome everyone. It's good to see all of you. It's Friday and it's raining here. I don't know, or it's gonna rain. I think it's gonna rain here in Edmonton. I hope you guys are doing really well. It is, as I say, of course, it's day 89 and it's Friday and it's good. So we are going to be launching into our weekend, which is really good. So we want to make sure we're doing this on the right note. It's just good to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to today's subject because we've got some really good ones. There was a great question that was posted by Ron, who runs an amazing page called the Psychic Grapevine, and it's an amazing page. So so anyway, he had posted this the other day, and I wanted to tackle it because I thought it was really good. And we're going to continue our discussion today about keeping our connection with non-physical and what that looks like. So good morning to Dan and Patricia and Ed and Sally, everybody coming in this morning. It's good to see y'all. As I say, it's nice. It's nice. It's Friday. It's a weekend. It's been like sort of one perpetual weekend for a while, but now everybody's going back to work, so that's cool. And this is going to be really good. As I say, the questions that I got have been so good. And we had the question, one of the questions I wanted to talk about today was about empaths and their ability to feel a lot, but their ability to be conned as well. So it's such a catch-22, right? So good morning to Marge. Good morning to everyone. It's so good to see everybody every morning. And Jay, nice to see you. There's so much to talk about today. We've got, as I say, interesting questions about both empaths and the idea of connecting to non-physical. We've been talking, of course, about Ouija boards quite a bit over the last couple of days, and what that looks like and what that can look like. But how do you maintain that connection to non-physical once it's there? And what do we look for? How does that manifest? How do our broken pieces and our pieces that are whole all fit into all of this? What does it all mean? So we're going to chat about that today and tackle some crazy subjects. So good morning to Brandy and Shadow. Nice to see you. You guys say it's raining there in Texas as well. Yeah, it's raining here too. And well, it's going to rain. It's very cloudy. It's like you got those gray clouds there. They're just kind of hanging in there, right? So it's really good. So I've had some pretty cool experiences with, realizing that the stuff sometimes that you think is wrong with you is actually the things that make you fit into a certain niche or connect with something in non-physical that you're meant to connect with or whatever. So there's going to be a lot today that we can talk about. Good morning to Lori and Amanda and Des. Amanda, you guys are thundering there. Well, it's better than the heat wave. We've been really warm too, but we're waiting for probably a good thunderstorm, I guess, later today. Brandy says thank you for the necklace. Yeah, or the necklace is interesting. Yeah, it is. It's really cool. This one's just really cool. I don't have a lot of jewelry. It's really weird. I don't have a lot of jewelry. I have some jewelry. I have my leather. I have my leather bracelets and stuff like that, but I don't have a lot of jewelry. I don't know why. I look at jewelry and it's pretty, but I don't know. I can't bring myself to invest in a lot of jewelry. I don't know. But this one's really cool. So this one has got, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. This one's got a whale tail on it. This has kind of got a neat story behind it. It actually has to do with Abraham Hicks, because they brought they did a seminar years ago called Master Course, and they had this great story where one of the people that was on the workshop, they were doing a workshop on a cruise, an Alaska cruise, and the guy had said that one of the main reasons he was on the workshop was because he really wanted to see whales, and they ended up using the idea of manifesting these whales as an analogy for manifesting other things in our experience. And they said, the whale is in the ocean, is your belief in the ocean. So anyways, that's why I always have the whale tail, because it always reminds me that it's okay, everything that you want is there, it's yours, it's done, but is your belief there with it? Do you, where it's like a measuring stick. So that's why I always have the whale tail. So Anyway, so we have a as I say, the question that was posted by Ron from Psychic Grapevine. I wanted to start with that this morning because I think it blends and leads into so much more about what we're talking about today. And his question was, why is it that an empath can sense things that others can't, but also be blind to being conned and taken advantage of? So I thought this was really, really interesting because I've seen this happen so much with a lot of people that tend to be more on the sensitive side of things, or the more intuitive side of things, where it's like, they can get tapped in and tune into all of these different things, and oftentimes see things in other people's lives. Like, they can spot and pinpoint things in other people's lives, and that when it comes to other, like themselves, they're getting taken and conned and abused and used and all of these kinds of things, and they just don't see it. Good morning to Emily Menhouse. Yay, nice to see you, girl. It was really good to see you. So let's chat about this a little bit. Why is it that empaths are like this? So what I've observed over the years of dealing with people who are more on the sensitive side of things, is that people translate information different. We translate our world different. And the people that maintain and sort of translate their world through their logical brain, their logical mind, right, tend to be a little bit more out of touch with the emotional side of their experience. So they're critically thinking, which is a really positive thing, but oftentimes they tend to tune out or suppress or consider emotions sort of on the silly side, it's a secondary thing to pay attention to, not a primary thing to pay attention to. And this in some areas has its advantages, because when you've got somebody who's coming along who, for example, is trying to con somebody, or is being abusive, or being whatever is going on, they will critically be able to think through that scenario and just be like, what, this isn't adding up, this doesn't make any sense, I don't know, like, I can compare this to past experiences and play out the scenario in a different way than, say, somebody who is more emotionally involved in the situation, where somebody who's more sensitive to someone like, say, for example, a narcissist who's coming in and playing on the sympathy strings, right? Because anybody who's dealt with, Emily and I have had many long conversations about these people. It's the same with Patricia and I, where they will come in and they will play on those sympathy strings, and the people that are very heart-based and heart-centered immediately tune into that aspect of it rather than critically thinking out what's going on. So I think that's part of the reason why we see people that are more sensitive getting conned more often and falling into that, because usually when we see people who are empathetic and towards others in any way, you tend to, it's such a positive quality, you tend to want to reach out and help these people, but at the same time, it's like if you don't have that balance where you're really able to sort of take a step back, be empathetic, but then take a step back and observe the behavior overall, you can tend to get sucked under by people who are have personality disorders, or are conning people and liars and stuff like that, because we're attached emotionally to the story rather than being able to interpret the information on a critical level. So I think that's really what it is that it's just two different ways of interpreting the world. There's many people in my life that tend to lead towards more of the emotional side of their experience, and it makes them amazing, incredible people. But unfortunately, it's also sometimes what gets them sucked into, really heavy anxiety, and stuff like that. So it's really, really tough. So Emily's saying, that she agrees, and she says it happened today. Her ex has never been there for him, but wanted to email her and tell her that he's got surgery, and no response, and refusing to be empathetic. Yeah, and Emily, just so you guys know, I'll let Emily, if she wants to tell her backstory, that she can, but she's had some major trouble with a very narcissistic and abusive partner. And I had the very same thing happen to me when I disconnected from a very abusive person, and he ended up following me to a party in another city, and was going on and on and on and on about how I should, how bad off his parents were, and he was going on and on. So yeah, and you have to just kind of gray rock something like that and just shut it down. And you know, their kryptonite is indifference. So it's a really big thing, but honestly, so I think that's what it is. I think that's the root of this, and why some of these people end up, as I say, getting conned, and empaths tend to get conned into stuff when, you know, you think that they would be able to intuitively know that something is off, but usually it's like they're just so involved in the story. And if you've got somebody who is really good at convincing people too, then you end up with a whole nother problem. So I think this is going to be a show next week. Actually, I think we should do a show on personality disorders and narcissism and people who are like psychic and empaths and stuff. I think this would be a really good topic. So the other thing that I wanted to go into today is, as I say, we were talking so much about the idea of the Ouija board the last few days. We've been talking about you know, how it can be a really positive experience or a very negative experience based on your own vibration and tension, and your emotional state going into it, right? And your state of expectation. And maintaining that is a really, really big deal. So one of the big things that I think we didn't really touch on the last couple of days has been preparation for stuff like this, for being able to sort of begin to connect with non-physical energy in a way that's going to be substantial and good and fun and enrich your life. Gareth is saying here, there's an apex to logic, largely a good tool, but it can become more like arrogance in nature. Emotion is also a good tool, but can cause ignorance. Emotional logic is what is needed. Bam! That's it right there. Emotional logic. I love that. I love that. That is an aha moment, I think, right there. That is really good, Gareth. Damn. That is awesome. Emotional logic. I love this. So, an emotional logic, that's what we're talking about here, because here's the thing. So when we're communicating with stuff like non-physical, when we're dealing with, you know, whether it be entities or whether we're dealing with people in our experience, like whatever it is that's going on, the preparation is such a big deal, because people are oftentimes, first of all, they're waiting on words, okay? We're waiting. So often people are waiting on words, whether it be communication from source or you know, entities or spirits or other people. We're waiting on words, and that can be a huge mistake. So when we're talking about things like empathy and connection and reading language, we have to get this out of our head, that the language is always something that's done in words. It's just not. Most of the communication that people receive from non-physical or source or anything like that, let me tell you, it's not going to come through words. It's going to come through these like emotion. It's going to come through things going on in the environment. There's a whole other language that we have to understand to speak. And you know, it's funny, because when we're dealing with things like animals and stuff like this, we accept it. We accept it immediately. Like, I know that my snake Galen, for instance, like, he's not going to come to me and verbally tell me, you know, I love you or something like that, but he's going to show me. He shows me in all these different ways. You know, he's got a completely other language, but I never ever doubt that that's what I'm receiving from him. So it's interesting. So we can apply it in certain areas, but we never seem to be able to apply it to non-physical or the you know, the rest of the world. That we have to get that we are all speaking of a very different language, and it's an energetic language first. So some of this stuff is gonna take time. Some of this stuff is just gonna take time to build. You know, it's like going to a corner store, right? You can go into a corner store and buy a bag of M&Ms and get it immediately. Right? You can get it immediately. But if I want to buy the store with the M&Ms in it, it's going to take longer. So we have to be able to take a step back, not get impatient. And sometimes, you know, sometimes some of this connection and communication, it might take months, it might take a couple of years, depending on where you are with your experience. So, and where you are emotionally and where you are with this work. So the questions that we're asking, here's the other side to this as well. So not only is it about the preparation, it's about the idea of what exactly, what is it that you want out of these interactions? What does that look like? And we have to start looking at the questions as something that is like a canvas. The answer is going to be painted on that canvas. What do you want that painting to do for you in your experience? Why are you asking the question? You know, things like EVP, we talked about that EVP a little bit yesterday as well. And it's so important because with EVP and, you know, whether we're talking about channeling, whether we're talking about Ouija board or meditation, you know, whatever it is, however you're getting that connection, is a really big deal. So we have to think about it like a canvas. That is where your answer is going to be painted. What does your canvas look like? Is your canvas blank? Does your canvas have an outline of expectations that you're waiting for the universe to just fill in? Or are you willing to turn around and actually allow the painting to happen? Allow that energy, allow non-physical, allow whatever that is, allow the painting to happen. Or are you sitting there, you know, trying to fill in the canvas? And that's a really big thing. It's a big thing when we're talking about this stuff, because as we kind of move through, you know, everything that that is going on right now, whether it be, you know, in the States, whether it be, you know, in all over the world, you know, we've got all of these different things happen, and oftentimes we ask a question and then we start to fill in the damn answer before we actually allow the answer to happen. I did a video, and I'll post this again on the Entity Seeker Facebook page for you guys, about allowing and holding space for things instead of trying to force or fill stuff in. And when we're communicating with non-physical, that's something that we have to be very conscious of. And we do it with other people too. We do it with other people. That's the thing. You know, we turn around and we have a set expectation of the answers that they're supposed to fill in, and we forget that, oh, wait a minute, like, allow that to show up, because it's probably better than what you think it's gonna be. You know, we do this often when we've hit really hard times as well. You know, we go into certain things, and you know, we automatically start filling in all of these negative things, or, you know, and fill in these expectations, or it's supposed to look a certain way. When people start to meditate or channel or anything like that, they're waiting for some voice to come over them. They're waiting for some voice, or they hear something, or words or something like that, and it doesn't always look that way. Sometimes it is just emotion. Sometimes you'll get what Esther Hicks, for example, describes as blocks of thought coming in, and they get translated, and she can translate the words. But there's a million different ways to do this, and not one of them is wrong. So don't fill up your canvas. Emily is saying, my canvas has one tiny tree. It needs a friend. I need a new portrait, a transitional portrait, and that would be fun to do. Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think it is. And it's something that as it looks different for everybody. So here, it's kind of like if you've got a key, right? We all have got a house key or a car key or something like that. And, you know, you look at the key, and they've all got these like bumps and dents and crooks in them and whatever, and they all the keys look pretty deformed for the most part, right? You're carving into them all of these different niches and whatever. And people are kind of like that too, where it's like we've been bent and broken in certain pieces, and there's all these little nooks and crannies and all this crazy that's going on. But here's the thing, is that we are like that, and when we turn around and find the niche where we're supposed to fit, and we are able to do that, then let me tell you, like, that door will start to open. Those cracks, those niches, those bumps, all of that were supposed to happen in order for part of that preparation that we're talking about, for you to get the answers. Because here's the thing about Source, it creates the answer, and then it creates the problem. There's the aha right there. It creates the answer first, and then it creates the problem. Can we line up with that answer? That's a whole nother question. But we have to begin to understand that those niches, those cracks, all of that is what is going to get us prepared for that, whatever that communication is as a whole with the rest of the world. We got to be able to get that. I always find it so interesting because oftentimes when you hear about people who have, taken their own life, or have had trouble with, events in their life or things like that, and have, talked about suicide. And I mean, there's been so many people out there that have fallen into that rut. And what's interesting though is that it's always over the past, and we forget about the immediate moment, and that we're creating that next thing. There's so many times I'll have clients say to me, yeah, but it doesn't change. The moment doesn't change. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Well, here's the thing. Nothing stays the same. Every single thing is in motion. Everything is in motion all the time. But oftentimes, because we are not shifting from that state of mind, from that frequency, from that vibrational range, we create the same thing over and over and over and over again. So when people turn around and say, okay, well, I've got, I've been looking to, communicate with non-physical and be in touch with source and all of that stuff, but nothing's happening. it's the same answer. It's the same emptiness over and over and over again. It's simply because you're just not, you haven't been able to create that next new thing. That's all this is. It's all about changing frequency. So maintaining that connection with non-physical is all about being able to, number one, the preparation. So preparation, are you in that space? Have you erased that canvas? Is the canvas open for you to get that communication and get non-physical to start filling those blanks in, and to remember that the questions that you're asking, the intention you're going into, is that canvas. That's what it is. So maintaining it, keeping it, and being able to realize that it's not all about words. It's not all about words. Emily's asking, I wonder why we hold on to the negative past so much. I do my best to think on the positive past, but maybe that's why I continued to stay in the relationship I was in. Yeah, it's so funny. Because we tend to move into experiences that are familiar to our emotional center, right? So when we've got an experience that's going on, and it feels maybe off to us. It's not pleasant. It's not good. But if it's familiar to that frequency that we're in, we tend to gravitate towards it, because it's just not out of our comfort zone. We know it. We know it really well, even though it's something that's negative for us. It's very abusive. But it's something that we're familiar with. And then when we move into, something that is new, or something that's in this new experience, oftentimes we don't really know how to deal with this shift in our being, because in order to get a new experience, you have to be something different. We have to be different in order to get that new experience, and not everybody really wants to do that. When we're stuck in our story, so here's the other part of this. When we're stuck in our story, we also tend to want the experiences that affirm the story. So say, for example, and I see this with people who are chronically ill a lot, they tend to gravitate towards the experiences that affirm the chronic illness, or experiences where they have to affirm their chronic illness to other people. I see that quite frequently. When I was doing interviews, there's a hospital down in Alberta here, where I was doing some interviews because it was quite haunted, and it was really interesting. But the people there, a lot of them had been there for a very long time. They've been there for years. They were kind of living at the hospital, basically. It was like a hospice. And the interesting thing about that was that they were all affirming. They had to affirm their story to me. It wasn't a good story. It wasn't a happy story. Oftentimes it had to do with their pain and their upset and their, whatever. But they were gravitating towards being in that environment because it was familiar to them. It was within their range of comfortable frequency, and so this is what their behavior was. So people tend to gravitate towards those experiences that affirm that over and over and over again, even if it's heartbreak, even if it's whatever it is. If they've got a story about, I always get into bad relationships, or all of the hauntings I've ever had happen to me are awful, or my family had a terrible history with paranormal activity, so I'm going to have a terrible history of paranormal activity. or, you know, my whole family has had heart problems, so I'm definitely going to have heart problems, or, you know, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is for them. But we tend to gravitate to the experiences that affirm that story. So if we got that story going on, that's what we're going to relate back to people. You know, if your story, for example, is, you know, man, I've got all this cool stuff that happens to me. Things work out for me all the time. This is amazing. You know, this is exciting, and my life is really good. And yeah, I've had some crappy things happen along the way, but you know what? Overall, things have been really awesome for me. You know, you're going to start reciting different experiences. You just are, because that's not what's standing out. So it's whatever's standing out for you in your story. Emily's saying here, they can speak illness on themselves. That is damn true. Let me tell you, that is damn true. You tell yourself enough that you're going to have an illness, or you're going to die, or you're going to whatever. Let me tell you, you will speak that on yourself. Words are so powerful. Words are so powerful. And when we think of speaking, we don't realize that it's like whatever is coming out of your mouth, you are giving life to that. You are giving life to that. So you gotta mind that stuff. Gareth was saying, I have depression. I find that when my mind is in a depressive state, I remember and feel the negative that I've been through. The positive is a distant memory. The opposite is also true. When I'm positive, my memories and emotional memories are positive. Yeah, exactly. And you're spot on with that, because it really does. We really do attract where our emotional state is, and thoughts are no different. We attract thoughts just in the same way we attract people and experiences. This is something that's really key, and we have to understand that all of those niches and you know, crooks and all of that are in the key that is us, will fit in somewhere. But we have to be careful how we're telling the story, because that will determine the doors that are going to open. So we have to maintain that. And the paranormal, as I say, is no different. You know, when we're sitting down to things like the Ouija or channeling or anything like that, you know, the niches that we're paying attention to in that key is going to determine what door that ends up opening up. It's super true. And it's Emily's quotes from the Bible here. She says, "Life and death is in the power of the tongue." Bam, that's it right there. You know, and like to go back on the Christian Bible, you know, Jesus even had said, you know, pray, believe it is yours, and it will be, right? So no matter what religion you lean to, you know, there's examples in every single one of them that's testifying as the same thing. And it really is true. And it's not a religious principle by any means. This is a universal principle, and we have to be really conscious of what that's going to look like. So, as I say, remember, and it takes time. That delay between manifestation and you know, what we're talking about, our words and our thoughts and all of that, you want that delay, even though it can be, you know, really, really frustrating, because, you know, some of the things that we say to ourselves, some of the things that we speak and whatever, it's not helpful. It's not helpful. We have to be able to turn around and manage that, and be able to catch ourselves and go, you know, that's not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. So it's totally universal. So I wanted to read a segment from Faith in the Valley by Iyanla Vanzant today, because there's a passage in here that I think is really applicable, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So check this out. I thought this was really, really good. When you know the joys and beauty of walking or living a spiritual path, you want to share it with everybody. You tell friends what they should read or buy the books for them. You encourage family members to pray more, to learn to meditate, or to join you at a lecture or workshops. In the midst of your spiritual bliss, you can see just what everyone needs, and you want to give it to them. Why won't they listen to you? Why won't they put an end to their struggling, their suffering, and their pain? Why can't you help them? Why? Because the call of spirit has to come from the individual's heart. Just like you, every individual must hear the call and have the desire to answer the call. And when you answer the telephone at home, no one knows who the caller is but you. You can choose to stop what you're doing to engage in a conversation or not. You might talk while doing the dishes or while watching TV. The bottom line is you choose how to respond and how much attention you give the conversation. Then there are those instances when you are engaged in other activities. You decide to just let it ring and the call goes unanswered. Spirit calls every heart at least once a day. The choice to answer rests with the one who gets the call. Even if you answer for them, you must eventually pass the receiver. I love that. I love that. And it's super true. And when we start to understand that, when we start to look at people that are, as I say, lean towards the more empathetic side of things, and whatever, we have to understand that everybody is just translating different. That's what this is. Everyone's translating the world different. And when we get that, and when we understand that, then, it makes a little bit more sense. But, having that balance. And I loved what Gareth had said earlier about emotional logic. That's what it is. Emotional logic is so good. So good. So, damn, we have lots to talk about on Monday. As I said, I think we're going to do, we'll do a show on, some of these personality disorders and how it can interact with, the paranormal world and stuff like that, and how it can drag us under so easily, if we're not mindful. So there's lots of questions actually coming up for next week. I've got some really, really good ones. So, everybody, we've got to do our affirmations. So everybody take a breath. I'm a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept, love, and appreciate myself and who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can choose to allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to my connection with Source as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me, even in a sea of uncertainty. And at this moment, all is well. I am able to liberate myself from my past and live with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance of the life around me. I am able to embrace love while letting go of fear. And I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. And everybody take a breath. Oh, that was good. So Emily's asking, what day is the conversation about personality disorders going to be? Probably Monday. I got a really great question as well from last week about Reiki and healing and stuff like that as well, which is really good. So that's going to be next week also. There's going to be lots of stuff coming up. So, because we're going to be on to, do you guys realize we're going to be on to day 90? Day 90 on Monday. Like, that's nuts. So anyway, you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to be taking a break this weekend and working on some stuff. And we will be back Monday morning for more spiritual health care. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much. And keep the questions coming, because the questions are awesome. And you guys are what keeps us going. Like, I kid you not, you guys are what keeps us going every day. And so, like, your input, all of that is just so welcome. Send in the questions, send all of that. You guys, if you don't have the email is entityseeker@gmail.com. So you guys can email me questions there. Or, there's Facebook. Like, it's Facebook. That's just the Entity Seeker page. If I don't get back right away, I do eventually. I'm just, I can be slow. There's like lots of messages. So, but anyway, you guys, thank you so much. If you're missing classes, go to entityseeker.ca or youtube.com/entityseeker. They're all there. Subscribe on YouTube and you'll get them all. So I will see you guys on Monday. And have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.